Yo, welcome back to another episode of Please Be Happy. Tonight might be
Oh,
a
you didn't
shorter
finish this
one.
one.
Oh, it's doing that glitch again. Hold on. One sec. Okay, I hope that fixed that. We'll see. As the day winds down and starts to get darker, a light breeze starts to pick up. Not enough to be cold, but enough to make me glad I have my jacket. Aspen and Juliet and I sit on the front porch with the lights on, watching the road.
How long until people start showing up?
Soon, I'd imagine. The early evening is when most trick-or-treating begins.
They'd better hurry, before Miho eats all the candy.
Can't argue with that.
I unwrap another piece and stuff it into my mouth, shoving the wrapper into my pocket with a bunch of others.
Maybe if you go knocking on doors, you could convince people you're a kid in a costume too. That way you could get your own candy.
I said that last episode, Mio could totally pass.
Do you think that would work?
It's hard to talk with my mouth full of chocolate and caramel.
No, but it's funny to imagine.
Oh, look! Here come a few of them now.
I know some people say caramel, some people say caramel, and then some people say like caramel. I think caramel is right. Right? Sure enough, a group of 3 kids appear at the bottom of the hill and start making their way up towards us. I stand up, the giant bowl in my hands.
Oh, how cute!
One of the kids has a white sheet draped over them, with big holes cut out for eyes. The other 2 are dressed like characters I've seen on TV.
Trick-or-treat!
The 3 of them hold out open pillowcases, and I toss a handful of candy into each one.
Here you go.
The one with big eyes goes even more wide-eyed.
Whoa, that's a lot. Thanks a bunch. Wait, was it? Should I take some back?
Aspen swats at me gently.
You can't do that.
The 3 kids hurry off, probably afraid that I was really going to reach in and reclaim some of the candy. I sit back down.
How much am I supposed to give them?
Handful's fine, Miho.
Usually a piece or 2, but it's not a problem. We still have several unopened bags inside.
Great.
I grab another piece for myself and munch on it.
Well, in that case...
Aspen reaches over and picks out a couple of candies for herself, too. It isn't long before the next batch of kids show up, with another close behind them. The second group even has some parents accompanying them.
Trick-or-treat!
It gets later and later, but more kids start arriving, rather than less. I hand out candy until my arm gets tired, and Aspen takes over. More than once, Juliet has to go inside and get more bags of candy to refill the bowl.
This is more work than the library on a busy day.
Even on my first day of work, when Aspen helped me run the desk, felt less busy than this evening does. But also, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I haven't passed out candy in years, man. I'm too busy with work. Usually whenever, I don't want to dox myself here, but I work a job where I have to work on most holidays. Many of the kids have creative costumes, and I even recognize some of the characters they're dressed as. The less creative costumes are still cute too, and it's nice seeing so many happy smiles as they all walk away. It's not until the moon is high in the sky that the trick-or-treaters stop showing up. We can still hear the occasional whoop and shout from the streets nearby, but no one else comes up the path. The big bowl of candy is nearly empty, with less than a full layer left behind. A bunch of empty bags fill one of the recycling bins. In the end, we managed to go through all the candy Juliet brought. After about 10 minutes without any more kids, we finally get up from the porch.
I believe we can call it a night.
That was certainly the busiest Halloween I've ever been a part of.
Really? I didn't know if that was normal or not.
For Welly, maybe. But I don't get many trick-or-treaters at my apartment. And back home, there are like maybe 5 kids in town at any given time.
More candy for you.
Speaking of which, I hope I can count on the two of you to finish off the leftovers we have here.
Juliet, that is no problem for these two.
You don't even have to ask.
I'd better take what I can before Miho claims it all for herself, shouldn't I?
Not if I beat you to it anyway.
Hey, be nice to your girlfriend, Miho. Laughing, the three of us clean everything up and then finally head back into the library.
That was quite fun, but I do think I'm ready for bed. Is something wrong?
I barely register her words. Something is wrong, but I don't know what. As soon as I walk through the front door, I can tell, but I can't place what it is.
Miho?
Both of them stop walking, watching me with concern. Finally, it hits me.
It's cold.
It's cold.
It doesn't take me long to spot the source. One of the windows near the shelves, not far from Aspen's usual table, is wide open. The curtains flutter with the breeze. The two of them follow my line of sight.
Oh, did we forget to close this? But then, that doesn't make sense, does it? Why would we have just opened one of the windows?
We wouldn't. That window was definitely shut earlier.
It's Halloween. Maybe some kid snuck in here as a prank. Is anything missing?
The three of us look around, inspecting the shelves, front desk, and everything in between. If something's gone, it's not immediately visible.
I can't see anything out of the ordinary.
Me either.
Yeah.
Something still doesn't sit right with me.
I'm gonna go look upstairs.
The other two follow behind me. Juliet goes to check her office, but it appears untouched. Aspen waits at the top of the stairs, watching. Meanwhile, I go to my room. Grabbing the handle, I push the door open and turn on the lights. I can hardly believe what I see. My window is open too. My bed sheets and pillows are strewn across the floor, like someone climbed across the bed. What few possessions I have are also scattered around the room, as if a tornado had blown through.
Miho? Is something amiss?
I can hear both of them hurrying my way as I remain frozen in the doorway. Behind me, Aspen gasps as she gets a glimpse of my room.
Who? Why?
I have a feeling I already know the answer to one of those questions, but not the other. Stepping aside, I mechanically pick up my things and put them back where they belong. Everything is here except for
My scroll!
a little piece of paper. The only belonging that I really care about is nowhere to be seen. I check under my bed and every nook and cranny just to be sure, but it's gone. That fact is all the confirmation I need.
I'll be back.
I push my way past Aspen and Juliet's shocked faces and dash back downstairs. Both Aspen and Juliet shout after me as I barrel out the library, but I ignore them both. The instant I'm outside, I transform and keep running. There's no question or doubt as to who took my scroll. The question is why. As angry as I could be, I force myself to stamp that feeling down, at least until I know Silver's reasons. The path to Mount Victoria is more crowded than I've ever seen it. Both the roads and sidewalk are full of people, mostly parents with their kids. Some of them point or cheer as I run past, but I don't give them a second thought. None of them try to stop me or get in my way. By the time I climb the mountain and reach Silver's part of the forest, it's dark. She isn't in any of her usual spots, but I can sense that she isn't far away. Pacing through the darkness, I keep my nose near the ground, hot on her trail. And suddenly, just like last time, I find her. She moves in the darkness, a patch of shadow that's a different color than the rest. Her bead glows as vibrant as ever, illuminating her wrist. It shines on the unfurled paper in her hand. Like always, she waits with her back to me.
So you came.
Of course I did. Give me back my scroll.
I keep my distance, but reach out my hand. She's just a few steps away, tilting her head to look up at the starry sky. No, not the sky. The trees. I follow her gaze upward and realize something. I've been here before. I recognize this tree. It's the one the bird fell from. That makes me pause. Has she been wondering about it all this time? Is this her way of asking? Did she follow me all the way home? I soften my voice, but know that I may as well be blunt.
It died, you know. They weren't able to save it.
Her posture doesn't change, but by the subtle light of her bracelet, I can see her fingers clench the edge of my scroll more tightly.
I met the woman who rescued it. She said the same thing that you did. That's just how nature is.
Silence. Gritting my teeth, I try to contain my growing frustration. Normally, I can tolerate her silence, but tonight, instead of just coming to talk like she knows I would, she steals my most beloved possession and makes me chase her out here. Also, she can ignore me.
Don't you have anything to say? You must have come here for a reason, didn't you?
More silence. Not even a breeze disturbs it. Finally, I've had enough. I step forward, snapping a branch beneath my shoes.
Hey! Answer me, damn it! Stop acting like you don't care about anything!
That gets her attention. She looks at me over her shoulder, face hidden except for her eyes, and then faces me.
Were you to happen upon another burn, more broken than the first, would you still try to save it?
Of course.
Even knowing that your effort is likely to be futile?
Yeah, even then. At least there's a chance it would work out.
You speak like a human, fighting against the inevitability of death. While we could watch the river of life from its shores, you choose to struggle upstream. Why?
Why? Because otherwise it all just passes by. I did what you said and watched from the shores for so long because I didn't even think about joining it. But once I did, once I let someone pull me in, I realized I like it more this way. It's hard sometimes. I haven't even been trying that long, but those hard times just help me appreciate the good ones more. Or even at all. There's someone I met who was also afraid of getting hurt, and someone else who was afraid of just passing by. They showed me that those are parts of life too, just like death is for a lot of people. Who cares about living forever if you don't care about being alive? Immortal or not, it's all we have. You and me, my friends, that bird, it's the same for all of us. I could have run away. I thought about it a million times. It would have been a lot easier than staying. But I did stay. And so now, here I am. Someone took a chance on me once too. Even if I wouldn't have died, they still saved my life in a way. I thought it would be impossible for someone like me, like you and me, that it wasn't even worth the effort to try and change things. But I was wrong. And I'm glad that I was. And so that's why I do the same thing all over again, with the burn. Because if there's even a chance, it's worth trying.
Although I don't say it, I can't help but think even talking like this is something relatively new for me. Unlike Silver, who talks more like Aspen's old books most of the time. It just goes to show that there are lots of different paths. Pardon me. There are lots of different paths our lives could have taken, but they both brought us here together. While Silver is still thinking about what I said, her eyes suddenly go wide at the same time that I feel something warm on my neck. Holding my necklace where I can see it, both Silver and I just stare as my bead brightens before my eyes. The glow intensifies to the point that Silver has to shield her eyes and look away, although somehow it doesn't bother me. I also watch as another eyelash thin crack appears, and then another. For a moment I half expected to just shatter, but it stops after the third crack, still holding itself together. The light from it also dims a little bit, but it's still brighter than it was. When I let go and it falls back against my neck, my bead feels heavier than normal too. Silver is able to look at me again, and though the shock has faded from her expression, her eyes stay fixed on my bead. She laughs, but it's humorless. Shaking her head, she continues to stare at my necklace instead of my eyes.
I had hoped that by looking at this, I might be able to learn your secret. Some magic spell or incantation that you had invoked. At the very least, I thought I might understand. Even as I read it, I thought that I must be missing something. For what meaning could such simple instructions hold? Even as you arrived here, I hoped that perhaps you would reveal some missing part of the puzzle. So golden was your light as I approached your library that I thought it must be someone else. So bright that I could see it clearly. The same color as the person close to you. Now, I don't know if I should be disappointed or not to find there is no secret to these words. Is there?
Holding my scroll in front of her face the same way I held my necklace, her eyes glide across the characters.
수복강령.
You can read that? Gosh, I don't know what that means.
Please be happy.
Roll credits.
What simple nonsense. And yet, how could I deny that you've taken it to heart when your very aura tells me your truth?
It's all I can do to blink, to breathe, to stay standing upright as the world narrows to just the two of us, all awareness of anything else falling away from me. Confusion is just as plain on Silver's face as my reaction, as I struggle to speak.
You can read it? That's what it says?
After years of looking and trying to understand, and she can read it just like that? Silver, who says she cares nothing for people and their lives or culture. I'm not the only one stunned. The parchment falls from Silver's hands as she drops it in shock. It flutters to the ground and stays there, even as a budding breeze starts to blow. That shock changes into understanding, and then Silver laughs again. Really laughs, for the first time I've ever seen. Her usual dignified and threatening poise is gone as she laughs so hard that it echoes around the woods. Clutching her chest, it's all she can do to remain upright, as she acts like she's heard the world's funniest joke. Still, just like earlier, I'm not sure there's any humor in it. Finally, with a groan, she retrieves my scroll and then straightens up, wiping her eyes.
You're serious, aren't you? You never knew what it said before now.
I shake my head.
I would call you a liar if you were anyone else. You've made a fool of me without even trying. Or rather, I've made a fool of myself. I thought your glow was the result of those words. But you achieved that by yourself. Whatever it is you feel, it's something you've learned on your own, isn't it? You truly believe all the things you said.
Maybe not on my own. I had a lot of help along the way. But yeah, I mean it. Every word.
I reach out a hand again, taking a step forward, then another, and another. I stop just in front of Silver. All she has to do is take the final step forward. I don't demand anything, just reach. She eyes my hand warily, like a stray dog deciding if it should trust someone. I hold my breath, waiting. With a rustle, she pushes the paper into my hands, and then backs away, looking at the ground.
Your path is different than mine. We may have more in common than I once thought, but I still cannot follow behind you. Though I can understand why you walk it.
I nod.
And I understand why you said no. I hope you change your mind someday.
Perhaps. Although, I do not think we'll meet again.
Wait, why not? Are you leaving?
Soon. I don't know when. I haven't decided. But I made up my mind before I ever visited your library.
Oh,
You're disappointed.
I am. You're the first other Gumio I've ever known. You're like... family, I guess. Didn't you call us sisters before?
Silver blushes, averting her eyes.
Perhaps.
Then that's what we are.
That's simple, is it?
It really is.
Silver shakes her head and looks around, regaining a bit of her standoffish composure. This is about the time when she typically transform and run away.
At least tell me before you leave, okay? Whenever it is.
She hesitates, but then agrees.
Fine. Goodbye, Miho.
Bye, Silver.
She walks towards me, rather than away, and comes to a stop right beside me. We both face in different directions. Slowly, she raises a hand and awkwardly pats me on the shoulder, just once. By the time I turn my head to look at her, all I can see is the disappearing gleam of silver fox fur as she blends into the night. I'm alone, but I don't feel alone. Looking at my scroll, there are a few new creases from where Silver held onto it, but they don't mess up the writing or anything. It's just another record of what we've been through together. The breeze from before picks up, making the paper flutter in my grip, and I use two hands to hold it. Seeing without reading, I let my eyes wander over the familiar characters. It's funny, all this time spent not knowing what they said, just to find I've lived by them all along. Or at least, I've started to. Happiness? That's a new one for me too, I think. Another abstract concept that didn't seem meant for me. But like everything else, it got easier along the way. I roll my scroll back up and store it safely in my pocket. The woods are dark as I walk through them. I'm not afraid. The shining light of my bead brightens the path, leading my way back home. Chapter 5. Stray Thoughts. Woo! Well, yeah, I know this one is really short, but we'll continue next time. Maybe I'll upload a day earlier. We'll see. As always, thank you all for watching. And especially you. You know who you are.
Time to take a break.